Good morning. Good morning and happy Sunday to you, YouTube family. It's Reverend Wendy with the Community of Compassion coming to you with our weekly Spirit Talk. And today's title is Faith for the Journey. Just want to say happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, trying to cover everything. And certainly Happy New Year to each and every one of you. Thank you as always for tuning in. We finally have made it to almost the end of 2020. We have 4 days left in this year. Can you believe that? 4 days left in 2020 because today is the 27th. Yes. And so, how are you feeling? How are you? I've been thinking about that. This is typically a time of reflection for me, just in general. I usually take time off during the time that I'm working. I'll take the week between Christmas and New Year's kind of as my respite and my opportunity to decompress and recharge and reflect on the previous year and then start to project and think about what I want the new year to bring. And so I've done that every year, but this year in particular has been much more involved in terms of the need and feeling the need to decompress and to think about all that we have been through in this year. And so today's topic kind of speaks to that because what I want to encourage us to do today is understand that at the end of the day, we are on a journey. That's kind of what life is about, not to sound cliche-ish, but we are on a journey and we are equipped to move through that journey with faith if we are someone who believes that faith is required to get us through a journey. And so today I just want to take a few minutes and talk a little bit about that because the concept of life being a journey, of what's happening in our lives, even right now, being a part of a larger journey, can sometimes give us the fuel and the motivation to keep going. Understanding that where we are now is not necessarily our final destination. What's happening in our world now does not necessarily mean that nothing else better or nothing else is going to come beyond it. So I really want you to embrace this idea of us being on this journey called life, and that there are going to be different stops and different detours and different distractions along the way, but that believing in the end, ultimately, this journey will take us to where we were designed to be and allow us to do what we've been, called and what we believe we are designed to do. So, faith for the journey is my talk and is my sort of motivation to you today. And I just want to talk about, what faith I am referring to. I'm not just specifically talking about a religious kind of faith. I am talking about the kind of faith that the definition describes as complete trust, like trust in yourself, trust in something bigger than you, and trusting that the process is unfolding, that your life is unfolding in the way that it was scheduled and created to unfold. And sometimes it's hard to think about it that way, right? Sometimes it's you hit sort of a wall or you hit a crossroads and you're like, how did I get here? Like, why am I finding myself in this moment at this place in my life? I should be further along in my journey. I should be more successful. I should be more connected. I should be more aligned. And perhaps you are not. That's not a bad thing because that's the whole idea around journeys. Things come up, detours you didn't anticipate, stops that you have to make that you weren't necessarily planning. Directions change. You might have to take a break. All of those things happen, and those are very natural, but they're not designed to make us feel as though somehow the journey has completed itself. You'll know that. We'll know that when we have arrived at the place where we feel like our journey was designed to take us. So we'll figure that out. But in the meantime, how's your journey going along now? And do you have faith that everything that has happened along the way to this point is what was supposed to happen in your journey? Is there anything that's happened in your life, over the course of the last, say, 10 years that you feel like, wow, I was not anticipating that, or that was not a part of my plan? I'm sure it is. But can you look back on that same thing and say, but I learned something from it. I took something from it. It's what needed to happen at the moment. I didn't realize it at the time, but now looking back on it, connecting the dots, kind of like what Steve Jobs used to say, when you look back across your life and you connect the dots, it starts to make sense where you are now. So think about that. Think about the journey that you've been on in your life to this point, and all of the places and times where you thought perhaps this was something that was going to derail you, something that was going to destroy you, something that was going to cause you to not be able to be successful and live life the way you wanted it to. And yet, here you are. You're here today on a Sunday in 2020, in one of the most challenging years in the history of all years, for us, sort of modern day folks. I'm not going back to biblical times when there were, earthquakes, locusts, and fires all at the same time. But, in this modern day, this has really been one of the more challenging years, but you've even made it through that. If you're even remotely able to sit here today and to listen and to reflect on your journey, that is a feat in and of itself. And give yourself credit for being able to be in a position to do that. And so our journey is going to take us a number of places. What we have to do is be willing to trust that process, because faith, and the definition of faith, is complete trust. Now, there's a scripture that goes along with that I'd like to read, that is one that I reflect on from time to time, and it really has been helpful for me across my life. And I just wanted to share that with you. And it says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path." That's always been a favorite of mine. That's over in Proverbs chapter 3, verse 4-6. This notion somehow that I don't have to always lean on my understanding and the way I see things. But if I trust in God, if I trust in something outside of myself, that my guide, my path will be directed. And so that's kind of how I interpret that scripture. Like, sometimes we can get lost in our own heads. Like, I don't know if that's you, but I am a chronic overthinker, and I can totally get lost in my own head and about what I'm supposed to do and what my next steps are going to be. And I might come up with, in my mind, that my next step is to go to the east. But if I take a moment and reflect and make sure that that's what I believe is I'm supposed to do, and I maybe pray, I may meditate, and then I sort of get an impression on the inside that perhaps I'm supposed to go left, then I will lean not necessarily to my own understanding, but in acknowledging that I don't have all the answers for my life, I may seek God and have a peace about going in a different direction, right? So trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Lean not to your own understanding. In all of your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Your path, my path. And so that also kind of brings me to faith for the journey from a more personal perspective of mine. For the last year, I have been conducting these spirit talks. This was a part of what I believe, and is a part of my spiritual journey. After leaving the church where I had been pastoring for 18 months at the end of 2019, I had not stepped into another pastoral role and or ministry leadership role. And so at that time, I felt though it was important for me to maintain that connection and maintain the outreach to those who needed spiritual uplift and motivation. And it also served as a place for me to keep myself nourished and to keep myself spiritually in tune, if you will. But as many of you know, over the last couple of weeks, I've been, sort of teasing an announcement, and then last weekend shared with you that I launched my campaign for Congress here in DC for. So very excited about that. Have been on the campaign trail now for almost 3 weeks, and it has been, I mean, it's literally been life changing, even in the short time that I have been campaigning. It's just exciting, and there's all this energy, and it really for me feels like, as I said last week, that this is the next step in my journey. And so I am trusting the process, and I am trusting and leaning not just to my own understanding, but acknowledging God and acknowledging that if this is the next step in my journey, I want to be fully available to fulfill that, and to feel as though I am being true to what my next steps are. So that being said, friends, I am going to have to put these weekly meetings of our Spirit Talk on hiatus for the time being. And as much as I love you all and want to, continue doing this, I have to be realistic about the time constraints and what's going to be happening for me as I move forward next year into my campaign. Good morning, Kimberly. How are you? So the faith for my journey moving forward is going to be in trusting God to help me run as an effective campaign as I can here in DC. And things will really kick off beginning in January. And so as I prayed and reflected over this last week, it came, pretty clear to me that I don't want to neglect this process or not be prepared for this process while focusing on my campaign. And so that's why I'm making the decision to suspend this for now, the Spirit Talks. What I will commit to is endeavoring to post a message, perhaps even if it's once a month, because I do appreciate having this outlet, but I'm also being realistic about my time. I will be still working full time. I work, a day job here with the school system. So I'll be working full time and campaigning. And a lot of that campaigning and a lot of those events will take place on the weekends. And so I hope that you all will keep me in prayer as I, take this step of faith, trusting in God that this is indeed the next step of my journey, and understand that as much as I appreciate and much as I enjoy doing these Spirit Talks, I feel as though doing the campaign, the work, and the Spirit Talks, that something would fall through the cracks, and I don't want that to happen. So I want to say thank you to those of you who have been following me, who have been listening and sharing and tweeting and commenting on these Spirit Talks. I hope that they have been, incredibly helpful to you. If you are interested, they're all here on my channel. You can always go back and review them and sort of take a listen. But one of the things that I try to do is not just preach a concept and not just talk about something, but actually live it. And so even in my making the decision to put the Spirit Talks on hiatus for right now, feels like me living what it is that I preach in these particular talks about following a path, about taking leaps of faith, about taking steps, about prioritizing our lives and being respectful of our energies and of our callings. So I hope that you guys, understand, my decision and why this will actually be not only the final Spirit Talk of the year, but moving forward, they will be held more so on a monthly basis when I am available to do them. And I hope that on the Sundays that you would normally tune in, instead of tuning in, just use maybe about 5 minutes of that time, if you think about me, to pray for me, to pray for my campaign, if you will, and just know that I believe that I am pursuing what I believe God has called my life to in this particular moment. I trust the process. I trust God. I've always been someone who has lived my life in response to what I felt like was guidance from God and guidance from spirit. I've never been one to say, well, this, I'm going to do this next, and then I'm going to do that, or I'm going to take this particular job and I'm going to stay there for 27 years. That's never been me. I've always been one to be open to the spirit and open to what I felt like I was being called to, not necessarily about what I wanted to do. And so I thank you guys again so much, for your support and for just being there to help with the spiritual nourishment and refreshment every week. It's been a blessing, especially in this year of 2020, to have this time to sort of shut things out, even if it's just for 20 minutes or so, and just focus on what's good, focus on what's right, and focus on what's faithful. I want to read just this short poem that I found on faith, and it's by Patrick Overton. And Patrick Overton said, "Faith is when you walk to the edge of all the light you have and you take your first step into the unknown. Faith says you either have to believe that one of two things will happen, that when you take that step, something solid will be there for you to stand on, or that you will be taught how to fly." And I love that. I love that, no matter what we do, if we're taking a step of faith, that it will be successful. Either you'll have something to stand on once you take that step, or you'll be given wings, but you won't fall. And I hope that even as we head up toward 2021, I know some of us are a little bit hesitant to make any kind of resolutions, or because we all did this. We went through this drill last year, right? And had no idea what was in store for us in 2020. Matter of fact, I saw something online that said 2021, come in, sit down, be quiet, and don't touch anything. So people are already kind of giving 2021 a forewarning, like, listen, do not come in and be, sort of as difficult, challenging, and as destructive as 2020 has been. So just come in and just behave, right? But in that same spirit, the new year always puts us in a place where we feel like we want to sort of have some hopes and some desires and some thoughts about what we want our life journeys to look like in 2021. So as I get ready to sign off on this final Sunday of 2020 and this final Sunday with our Spirit Talk, again, I just want to say thank you. I want to acknowledge all those folks who have supported, donated, and who have just come by with kind words. And I love y'all. I just love you all very deeply, and I appreciate all the good things that you all are doing in your own lives. Thank you, Kimberly, for those kind words as well. Be blessed, and let us hope together. Let us hope together that 2021 is much more hopeful, and that many of the things that we've been exposed to in 2020 that needed to change, let us stand in agreement that those things will begin to change. That is my hope as I embark upon this journey to be a part of the change that we see, particularly in our government. Please keep me lifted in prayer. I'll keep thinking about you all, and know that we did good. We made it to the end of 2020. We did good. We're in a good place to walk into 2021 very clear-eyed, sober, and hopeful for things to be better, and for seeing eventually the world that we know is possible to see. So thank you again. Love you much. Take care. Thank you for all your support, and I hope to see you soon. Happy New Year. God bless you, and thank you.